Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make southern fried turkey breasts with gravy. So everything you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make this. And mind you, I am using already cooked turkey. This came off of a bird that I made recently. It's just sliced. It's 4 pieces of it here. It's really easy to do. You can make this as big or small pieces as you want. Now some people would do this with raw turkey breast they buy at the store and cook it just for this whole purpose. I'm not doing that because 1, you could actually buy a whole turkey for what that turkey breast costs, and 2, this is a great way to get rid of some leftovers. And you can see there's not really a lot going into this. The stuff I have on the side is all I'm using. So we're going to break open a couple of eggs in some kind of container that we can mix up this whole thing with this and some buttermilk and a little bit of flour, so that way we can coat these before we try to put the breading on the outside. Just something to help it stick. So once you got your 2 eggs in there, you're going to add about 1/4 of a cup of buttermilk. We're just basically trying to balance out those eggs about the equal amount. And then we're going to put in here about a tablespoon of flour. And we're just going to do this and mix it up to really get the turkey breast wet enough to hold the breading that's going to go on the outside of it. So just take a fork, mix this around, break open those yolks. And yes, the flour will go all over the inside of the bowl or whatever you're using. Just scrape it down on the sides as you're doing it. We're just trying to get this completely mixed through to where everything is incorporated together before we start actually putting the turkey breast into it. So it only takes a second to do. And then once we get this mixed up, we will dip them and then bread them. But we're going to mix up our breading for this first. So make sure you get this completely mixed through and that there's no flour hanging about here or there. And this is just going to be something really great to help this cook really well. So the best thing about this is when you mix this up and you put it on the turkey and then put it into the flour mix we're going to make, this really holds on really well. It doesn't come off. It doesn't flake off when you're cooking it. It does a really great job. So now in a separate bowl, we're going to mix up 1/2 cup of flour. This is just all purpose. We're going to have 1/4 of a cup of panko going into this. And then we have about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And once we get this in, we want to mix it up and just get it mixed before we add seasoning to this, because we want to make sure that all of these really distribute well, especially the cornstarch. So take a whisk or whatever you have, mix this around a little bit so that way we can get this going. And once it's completely put together and everything is all mixed through, we're going to add seasoning to this. And we do have like 5 different things going in for seasoning. Nothing major about this, but they actually have a great taste. So we have 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of pepper, and 1/2 a teaspoon of any kind of like a chicken or poultry seasoning, something like that. Then we're going to add 1/2 a teaspoon of Kingsford garlic and herb and 1/2 a teaspoon of Kingsford Cajun. And once that's in there, we're going to go ahead and mix this through and get this completely mixed into the flour, so that way that seasoning works its way through all of it. Because when we go to put these in, we really want to take the benefit of all the seasoning we put into it. We don't want it all just stuck in one side of the bowl. So work it around with the whisk, make sure it's completely through. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the piece of turkey, put it into this mix, and yes, it will try to stick to the bottom sometimes because the egg will glue it to the bottom of the container. And then once you get it out of there, we're going to just put it over into our flour mix, and we're going to really press this into it, so that way the panko and everything in the flour are really coating the outside of it. We want a really thick coating of this because it's going to give it a bit of a crunch, which is really nice when you're eating it, especially when you put the gravy over top of it. It really holds up well. So go ahead and, if you have to, just take it with your fingers or whatever and put some of this around the places where it hasn't gotten to yet, and then flip it over and then work on the other side and make sure that the whole piece of turkey is completely coated really well. The best thing with using the panko is it has such a neat taste to it when you're biting into this. It's kind of cool. And we're just going to work our way through each one of these until they're all coated and flip them back and forth, make sure they get a really good breading on them. And then we're going to get ready to actually fry these up, because we're going to fry them in a skillet just like if you were frying chicken or whatever. But good thing about this is it's already cooked. So once we put it in, we're really just cooking it for the whole idea of making the outside of it crunchy and cooked. So we're going to go medium-high heat. I'd say about 1/2 inch of oil in this is all you need. And then let it heat up before you put these in, because we don't want to put them in there in cold oil. That's just going to destroy the whole idea. And once they're in, you're going to let them cook for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then check underneath of them to see if they're starting to brown, because that's the whole idea. We want them to brown. And don't overlap these inside of your pan. Just put in what can fit in the pan. If you got a little room between them, that's perfect. If you have more, just bring them in after these are done. So as we're sitting here looking at this, just make sure that every now and then, you know, check underneath of there, move them around a little bit, just to make sure that, for one, they're not sticking to your pan, which they shouldn't, and two, that they're cooking underneath. And just use a spatula, start to flip it. You might have to use your fingers to help it flip, because, you know, it's kind of awkward shape. And then go ahead and flip it over. And once it's flipped, you're going to cook for 4 to 5 minutes on the other side as well. And we're just trying to go for a crispy browning on the outside of this. Now, when these are done, a lot of people will probably go in there with that spatula and just plop these down on a paper towel on a plate. Please don't. Use a wire rack over something like a cookie sheet or whatever, so at least the oil can drip out if there's any in there, because you don't want it sitting there in oil and becoming a soggy mess. The best thing about it is you put on a wire rack, it's going to drip right out. You have the benefit of all that crunchy texture on the outside without the grease, and that's the best thing about it. So once these come out, put them somewhere to drain. What you might want to do when you're actually picking them up is use your spatula and kind of tilt it to the side a little bit to make sure that some of that oil that might be, you know, like sitting on top of it goes off to begin with. And just put these to the side, and then once they're done, then you can go ahead and start putting in your other ones that you have, depending on how many of these you made. You know, I made 4 of these because that's all I needed for what I was doing, because some of these were kind of decently large sized. But that's perfect for whatever you want it to be. That's fine, because there's enough breading here, there's enough of the egg mixture to actually do another piece or two if you wanted to anyway, which that's perfectly cool. But like I said, once you get the first ones out, put your next in. Now when I served this, I served it with green beans, and basically just put this down on the plate while it's hot, and then pour some gravy over top of it, and that is going to give it the best taste. And you don't even have to be able to make gravy to do this. You can literally go to the store and get the jar that says turkey gravy on it and just heat it up, and this is basically it right here. You can add a roll or something to this, and you have a really great meal. But this has the best taste because of the fact that you're putting all these seasonings on it. The Cajun gives it a kick, and so does the garlic, and when it's done, it looks like this, and this is such a wonderful thing to eat, and I think you just might like it. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.